In a distant corner of the galaxy where stars shone like scattered diamonds against the endless blackness, the Galactic Empire ruled with an iron fist. Its power stretched across countless systems, crushing rebellions and silencing dissent wherever it arose. But lately something or someone had begun to challenge that dominance. Rumors whispered through space stations, trading hubs, and even military outposts about a mysterious sniper, known only as Valkyrie. She struck without warning, eliminating high-ranking officials of the Empire with deadly precision. No one knew her face, her name, or how she managed to vanish after each attack. All they knew was this: Valkyrie was real, and she was dangerous. The Empire's leadership could no longer ignore the threat. In a secret meeting aboard their orbital command station, Eclipse Prime, General Harold Grayson paced back and forth in front of a holographic map of the galaxy. His face was red with anger, his hands clenched into fists. 23 officers, he growled, slamming his palm on the table. 23 ranking members of our command structure wiped out in less than 6 months. If we don't stop this now, morale will collapse. Seated around the table were other leaders of the Empire, politicians, admirals, and intelligence operatives, all looking uneasy. The room buzzed with murmurs of fear and frustration. They had tried everything to catch Valkyrie, deploying elite squads, setting traps, offering bounties. But nothing worked. Whoever this person was, they were always one step ahead. Captain. Laura Hayes sat quietly at the far end of the table, her sharp green eyes scanning the room. She was tall and lean, with short brown hair and a demeanor that demanded respect. As head of the Empire's counterinsurgency unit, she specialized in tracking down threats to the Empire. Her reputation for efficiency and ruthlessness had earned her both admiration and fear among her peers. Now all eyes turned to her as General Grayson pointed directly at her. "You're up, Captain," he said. "This is your mess to clean. Find this Valkyrie. Stop her before she tears us apart." Laura nodded once, her expression unreadable. She didn't need to be told twice. This wasn't just another assignment. It was a test of her abilities, and perhaps her loyalty. Failure wasn't an option. Later that evening, Laura stood in the dimly lit briefing room aboard Eclipse Prime. Before her was a team of specialists handpicked for the mission. There was Ryan Cole, a cocky young marksman who boasted about his shooting skills but lacked discipline. Beside him was Dr. Karen Miller, a soft-spoken analyst who excelled at deciphering patterns in chaos. Completing the group were 2 experienced bounty hunters, Jake Monroe and Lisa Carter, brought in for their knowledge of the underworld. Laura began by displaying images of the victims on a large screen behind her. Each photo showed a different officer, a general here, a senator there, all dead under mysterious circumstances. Some had been shot from impossible distances, while others appeared to have died in accidents. Yet every scene bore the same signature: perfect execution, no witnesses, and minimal evidence left behind. "This isn't random," Laura said, her voice steady and commanding. "Whoever Valkyrie is, she knows exactly what she's doing. We're dealing with someone highly skilled, intelligent, and patient. Our job is to find her before she strikes again." Ryan leaned forward, smirking. "So what you're saying is we've got ourselves a ghost?" "No," Laura replied sharply. "Ghosts don't leave bodies behind. Valkyrie is human, which means she makes mistakes. And when she does, we'll be ready." Dr. Miller adjusted her glasses and spoke up. "Based on the data we've collected, Valkyrie seems to focus on key figures within the Empire, those involved in major decisions or operations. It's possible she has access to classified information, which would explain how she knows where to strike." Jake crossed his arms. "Or maybe she's got help from inside the Empire itself." Laura frowned. That thought had occurred to her too. A traitor feeding information to Valkyrie would make the situation even more complicated. For now, though, they had to focus on gathering leads. Their first destination? Nebula City, a sprawling metropolis located on the edge of Imperial territory. Intelligence reports suggested that several recent attacks had originated from there. Nebula City was unlike any place Laura had ever seen. Built into the remains of an ancient asteroid field, its skyline consisted of jagged towers made from salvaged starship parts and scrap metal. Streets teemed with life, refugees, smugglers, traders, and criminals, all trying to survive in the shadow of the Empire. It was the perfect hiding spot for someone like Valkyrie. Laura's team split up to cover more ground. While Dr. Miller analyzed intercepted communications, Jake and Lisa scoured local bars and markets for rumors. Meanwhile, Laura partnered with Ryan to patrol the city's outskirts, where many of the attacks had taken place. As they walked through the narrow alleys, Ryan couldn't resist breaking the silence. "You really think we can catch her?" he asked, his tone mocking. "She's already proven she's better than anyone else." Laura stopped and turned to face him. "I didn't bring you along for your attitude, Cole. Focus on the mission or go back to the ship." Ryan raised his hands defensively. All right. Just saying, if I were her, I'd make sure nobody ever found me." Before Laura could respond, a loud crash echoed from nearby. Both of them drew their weapons and hurried toward the sound. Rounding a corner, they found two soldiers lying unconscious on the ground, their rifles missing. Laura knelt beside one of them, checking for injuries. "Looks like we're not the only ones hunting her," she muttered. Ryan scanned the rooftops, his finger resting on the trigger of his rifle. "Think she's still close?" Laura stood up, her eyes narrowing. "If she is, she's watching us right now." Unbeknownst to them, Elena Carter, the woman behind the legend of Valkyrie, was indeed watching. Perched atop a crumbling building, she observed the scene below through the scope of her rifle. She recognized Laura immediately. The captain's reputation preceded her. Elena had expected the Empire to send its best, but seeing Laura in person made her realize just how serious things had become. Still, Elena remained calm. She had faced worse odds before. With a slight adjustment of her aim, she fired a single shot, not to kill, but to send a message. The bullet struck the wall inches from Ryan's head, causing him to jump back in shock. "Sniper!" he shouted, diving for cover. Laura reacted instantly, grabbing Ryan and pulling him behind a stack of crates. "Stay down," she ordered, her gaze darting toward the rooftops. But Elena was already gone, disappearing into the labyrinthine streets of Nebula City. Back in her hideout, a small workshop hidden beneath a bustling marketplace, Elena smiled faintly. Let them come, she thought. They'll learn soon enough that chasing shadows is a losing game. Hours later, Laura returned to the team's temporary base, frustrated but determined. "She's fast," she admitted during their debriefing. "Faster than I anticipated, but she's also bold. She could have killed us back there, but she didn't." "Maybe she's playing with us," Ryan suggested, rubbing the back of his neck. The near miss had shaken him more than he cared to admit. "Or maybe she's sending a message," Dr. Miller interjected. "That she's untouchable." Laura shook her head. "No. Messages are distractions. What matters is that we find her. Next move. Keep digging. Sooner or later, Valkyrie will slip up, and when she does, we'll be waiting." But deep down, Laura couldn't shake the feeling that this mission would change everything, for better or worse. Elena Carter moved silently through the crowded streets of Nebula City, blending into the chaos like a shadow. By day, she was just another face in the sea of refugees and outcasts, fixing broken drones, repairing starship parts, and keeping her head low. But by night, she became Valkyrie, the ghost who haunted the Empire's nightmares. Her workshop, tucked away beneath a bustling marketplace, served as both her home and her sanctuary. Tools hung neatly on the walls, wires and components scattered across workbenches, and a single cot in the corner provided her only comfort. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Tonight, however, Elena wasn't focused on repairs or rest. She sat at a small desk, reviewing intelligence reports she'd gathered from hacked Imperial communications. The Empire had sent its best to hunt her down. That much was clear. Captain Laura Hayes' reputation preceded her, and Elena knew this wouldn't be an easy fight. Still, she felt no fear. Fear was a luxury she couldn't afford. Instead, she felt determination. Every life she saved, every corrupt official she eliminated, brought her one step closer to justice, for her family, for her homeworld, and for all those crushed under the Empire's boot. Elena's thoughts drifted back to the attack that had changed everything. Years ago, the Empire had targeted her home planet, accusing its people of harboring rebels. In truth, they were farmers, teachers, and workers, ordinary people trying to survive. When the bombardment came, Elena had been visiting a neighboring system. She returned to find nothing but ash and silence. Her parents, her friends, her entire world, gone in an instant. That moment had ignited a fire within her, a burning need to fight back. Over time, she trained herself to become a weapon, a Yao sniper capable of striking fear into the hearts of tyrants. Now, as she studied the data before her, Elena noticed something troubling. The Empire wasn't just sending soldiers. They were preparing to use civilians as bait. Intelligence suggested that Captain Hayes planned to round up refugees in key areas, forcing Elena to reveal herself to protect them. It was a cruel tactic, designed to exploit her sense of morality. Elena clenched her fists. She wouldn't let them win. Not like this. Meanwhile, Laura Hayes and her team continued their search, combing through Nebula City with growing frustration. Despite their efforts, Valkyrie remained elusive, always one step ahead. Ryan Cole, still shaken from the earlier encounter, struggled to keep up. His cockiness had faded, replaced by a simmering mix of anger and curiosity. "How does she do it?" he muttered to himself as he scanned rooftops during another patrol. "It's like she knows exactly where we are." Dr. Karen Miller, seated nearby in their makeshift base, overheard his comment and smiled faintly. "That's because she probably does," she said without looking up from her tablet. "Valkyrie isn't just some random assassin. She's smart, patient, and resourceful. If I had to guess, she's been watching us since we arrived." Ryan frowned. "So what? We're just supposed to sit here and wait for her to strike again?" "No," Laura interrupted, entering the room. "We adapt. We think like her." She gestured toward a map of the city displayed on a wall screen. "If Valkyrie is targeting civilians to protect them, then we need to figure out which ones matter most to her. Refugees, activists, anyone opposing the Empire, they're all potential targets for her intervention." Jake Monroe, lounging in a corner chair, raised an eyebrow. "You really think she cares about these people? Seems like a lot of effort for someone who kills for a living." Laura fixed him with a sharp look. "She doesn't kill indiscriminately. Every target has a purpose. That means she's not just fighting for herself, she's fighting for something bigger." Lisa Carter nodded thoughtfully. "Makes sense. Maybe she sees herself as some kind of guardian angel." "Guardian or not," Laura said firmly, "we can't afford to underestimate her. Set up surveillance in the refugee districts. Monitor their movements. Track any unusual activity. If Valkyrie shows even a hint of involvement, we'll know." Back in her workshop, Elena prepared for the next phase of her plan. Using scavenged materials, she rigged a series of traps throughout the city. Motion sensors disguised as streetlights, tripwires hidden in alleyways, and decoys planted in abandoned buildings. Each one was designed to mislead her pursuers, buying her time to execute her next move. Tonight's target was General Marcus Hale, a ruthless officer responsible for overseeing mass deportations and executions. He was staying in a secure compound near the edge of the city, surrounded by guards and automated defenses. Breaking in would be difficult, but Elena thrived on challenges. As darkness fell, Elena slipped out of her workshop, dressed in dark clothing that blended seamlessly with the night. A hood covered her face and a sleek rifle rested on her back. Moving quickly and quietly, she navigated the streets, avoiding patrols and sticking to the shadows. When she reached the compound, she scaled a nearby building and positioned herself on its roof, overlooking the general's quarters. Through her scope, Elena observed the scene below. Guards patrolled in pairs, their rifles ready. Spotlights swept across the grounds, leaving few blind spots. But Elena had studied the layout carefully. She waited patiently, her breathing slow and steady until the moment was right. As two guards passed close together, she fired a single shot, striking a power relay box. The lights flickered and died, plunging the compound into darkness. Chaos erupted as alarms blared and guards scrambled to restore order. Taking advantage of the confusion, Elena moved to her secondary position, firing 3 quick shots. 2 guards collapsed instantly, while the third stumbled backward, clutching his leg. Before reinforcements could arrive, Elena disappeared into the night, leaving behind only silence. The next morning, Laura and her team reviewed footage of the attack. The precision of the shots left no doubt. It was Valkyrie. What puzzled Laura, though, was the timing. Why had Valkyrie struck so soon after their arrival? Was it a show of defiance, or was there a deeper strategy at play? Ryan voiced his frustration. "This is ridiculous. Every time we get close, she slips away. How are we supposed to catch someone who's always 10 steps ahead?" Laura crossed her arms, her expression thoughtful. "Maybe we're approaching this wrong. Instead of chasing her, we need to anticipate her moves. Think about it. Every target she eliminates weakens the Empire's control. There's a pattern here, and if we can predict it, we might finally have the upper hand." Dr. Miller nodded in agreement. "I've been analyzing her previous hits. Most of them involve officers tied to major operations, supply chains, propaganda campaigns, military deployments. If we focus on identifying upcoming projects, we might be able to intercept her before she strikes." Jake smirked. "Sounds like a lot of guesswork to me." "It's not guesswork," Laura snapped. "It's strategy, and right now, it's our best chance." Unbeknownst to Laura, Elena was already planning her next move. While the Empire scrambled to fortify its defenses, she turned her attention to a new target, Admiral Gregory Lane, the architect of the Empire's recent crackdowns on rebel activity. Unlike General Hale, Lane rarely left his flagship, the Ironclad, a heavily armed cruiser orbiting the planet. Reaching him would require ingenuity and risk, but Elena welcomed the challenge. From her workshop, she began assembling a custom sniper rifle capable of penetrating the ship's reinforced hull. It was a long shot, literally and figuratively, but Elena had faced impossible odds before. As she worked, she allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. The Empire saw her as a monster, a threat to be eradicated, but to the people she protected, she was hope incarnate. That knowledge fueled her resolve. When the rifle was complete, Elena packed her gear and set out once more, disappearing into the labyrinth of Nebula City. Somewhere above, the Ironclad loomed, unaware that its days were numbered. And somewhere below, Laura Hayes tightened her grip on her weapon, determined to end the game once and for all. Neither woman realized how close they were to crossing paths, or how much their fates were intertwined. Elena Carter moved with purpose through the dimly lit streets of Nebula City. The night air was thick with the smell of oil and metal, a constant reminder of the city's makeshift nature. Her rifle rested snugly in its case on her back, its weight familiar and comforting. She had spent hours preparing for this moment, studying maps, calculating trajectories, and testing her custom-built weapon. Tonight she would strike at Admiral Gregory Lane aboard the Ironclad, an orbital cruiser that served as both his command center and his fortress. The plan was risky. Even getting close enough to take the shot required navigating layers of Imperial security. Elena knew she couldn't afford mistakes. Every step had to be precise, every movement deliberate. As she approached the outskirts of the city, where towering scrap heaps met open desert, she paused to check her gear one last time. Satisfied, she activated a small drone she'd modified earlier. The device buzzed softly as it ascended into the sky, its cameras feeding live footage directly to her wrist console. From her vantage point on the ground, Elena watched as the drone approached the Ironclad. The massive ship loomed like a mechanical beast, its surface bristling with weapons turrets and sensor arrays. Imperial patrols circled the area below, their spotlights cutting through the darkness. Elena guided the drone carefully, avoiding detection until it reached a blind spot near the ship's lower hull. There, hidden behind a cluster of debris, she deployed a magnetic anchor. The anchor clung to the ship's exterior, securing the drone in place while providing Elena with a stable platform for her next move. Using the drone's camera feed, Elena scanned the interior of the ironclad. Through reinforced windows, she spotted Admiral Lane in the ship's main observation deck, surrounded by officers and holographic displays. His presence radiated authority, but Elena saw only another tyrant, one who ordered massacres and crushed dissent without hesitation. She adjusted her aim remotely, aligning the drone's mounted rifle with the window. It wasn't ideal. Shooting through multiple layers of glass and shielding would reduce accuracy. But Elena didn't need perfection. She needed precision. Taking a deep breath, she steadied her hand and pulled the trigger. The shot rang out silently in space, the bullet slicing through the vacuum toward its target. For a moment, everything seemed frozen. Then the window cracked, spiderweb fractures spreading outward before the glass shattered completely. Chaos erupted inside the ship as alarms blared and crew members scrambled for cover. Elena watched closely as Admiral Lane collapsed, blood pooling beneath him. Mission accomplished, but there was no time to celebrate. Imperial forces were already mobilizing, searching for the source of the attack. Elena quickly deactivated the drone, severing the connection to avoid being traced. She slung her rifle over her shoulder and disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind only silence. Meanwhile, Captain Laura Hayes received the news aboard Eclipse Prime. Admiral Lane's death sent shockwaves through the Empire's ranks, further fueling the panic spreading among its leaders. Laura clenched her fists as she listened to the report, her frustration mounting. "How is this possible?" she demanded, pacing back and forth. "We've increased patrols, set up checkpoints, and still she strikes." Ryan Cole stood nearby, his usual bravado replaced by grim determination. "She's good," he admitted reluctantly. "Better than anyone we've faced before." "That doesn't mean she's invincible," Laura snapped. "There has to be a weakness, a pattern we're missing." Dr. Karen Miller nodded thoughtfully. "I've been reviewing the data again. Valkyrie's targets aren't random. Each one plays a critical role in the Empire's operations. If we can predict her next move, we might finally catch her." "Jake," Monroe leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Or maybe we stop chasing ghosts and start thinking like hunters. Instead of waiting for her to come to us, we flush her out." Laura paused, considering the idea. "Explain." "We use bait," Jake said simply. "Set up a fake operation, something big enough to draw her attention. When she shows up, we're ready." Lisa Carter frowned. "And if she doesn't fall for it?" "Then we try something else," Jake replied. "We don't have the luxury of playing it safe anymore." Laura hesitated. Using civilians as bait went against her principles, but desperate times called for desperate measures. Finally, she nodded. "Fine. We'll set up a decoy operation. Make it convincing." Days later, rumors began circulating through Nebula City about an upcoming Imperial supply convoy carrying vital resources to the front lines. In reality, the convoy was a trap, designed to lure Valkyrie into the open. Laura and her team positioned themselves strategically along the route, hiding in abandoned buildings and fortified positions. Drones patrolled the skies, scanning for any sign of movement. Everything was in place. Elena, however, wasn't fooled. She had intercepted communications detailing the convoy's schedule and immediately suspected a ruse. Still, she couldn't ignore the possibility that real supplies were involved. If the Empire succeeded in delivering them, countless lives could be lost. Reluctantly, she decided to investigate. Under the cover of darkness, Elena approached the convoy's path, moving cautiously through the ruins surrounding the highway. Her instincts screamed at her to turn back, but she pushed forward, determined to uncover the truth. As she neared the site, she noticed subtle signs of an ambush: tripwires strung between rocks, motion sensors concealed in the dirt, and faint heat signatures from hidden troops. Elena smiled faintly. They weren't as clever as they thought. Instead of engaging directly, she set up a counter-ambush. Using explosives scavenged from old war zones, she rigged several traps along the convoy's route. When the first vehicle triggered one of her devices, chaos erupted. Explosions rocked the highway, sending debris flying in all directions. Guards scrambled to regroup, their disciplined formation crumbling under the sudden assault. From her, perched atop a nearby ridge, Elena picked off key targets with surgical precision, forcing the survivors to retreat. Laura watched the scene unfold through binoculars, her expression unreadable. "She knew," Ryan muttered beside her. "She knew it was a trap." "Yes," Laura replied quietly. "But she came anyway." As the dust settled, Laura surveyed the aftermath. The convoy lay in ruins, its cargo destroyed. Dozens of soldiers were injured or dead, their mission a failure. Yet despite the carnage, Laura felt a grudging respect for Valkyrie. This wasn't just about skill, it was about conviction. Whoever Elena Carter was, she fought for something greater than herself. Ryan broke the silence. "What now?" Laura sighed, lowering her binoculars. "Now we wait. And we learn. Next time, we won't underestimate her." Unbeknownst to them, Elena was already miles away, slipping through the shadows like a phantom. She knew the Empire wouldn't give up easily, but neither would she. The battle was far from over, and Elena vowed to keep fighting, for justice, for freedom, and for everyone who believed the Empire could be defeated. Somewhere in the distance, the stars twinkled faintly, indifferent to the war raging below. But Elena saw them as symbols of hope, guiding her forward into the unknown. The Empire's leadership was losing patience. Back aboard Eclipse Prime, Captain Laura Hayes faced a storm of criticism from the High Council. Admiral Lane's death had been a devastating blow, and now the failed ambush at the convoy site only added to their frustration. General Harold Grayson slammed his fist on the conference table, his face red with anger. "How many more failures will it take?" he roared. "This sniper is making us look weak. If we don't act decisively, the entire galaxy will see us as powerless." Laura stood her ground, her voice calm but firm. "We're dealing with someone who's highly intelligent and resourceful," she said. "Valkyrie isn't just an assassin. She's a strategist. Every move she makes is calculated, and every target she eliminates serves a purpose. To catch her, we need to think like her." Grayson glared at her. "Thinking like her hasn't gotten us anywhere so far. What do you propose we do? Sit around and wait for her next attack?" "No," Laura replied. "We adapt. We find out what drives her. Why does she choose certain targets? What does she want to achieve? Once we understand her motives, we can anticipate her actions." Dr. Karen Miller, seated nearby, nodded in agreement. "I've been analyzing patterns in her attacks," she said. "Each target has a connection to major operations that harm civilians. Supply chains, propaganda campaigns, military deployments. She's not just striking at random, she's dismantling the Empire piece by piece." Ryan Cole, leaning against the wall, chimed in. "So she's not just fighting for herself, she's fighting for something bigger." "Exactly," Laura said. "And if we can figure out what that something is, we might finally have a chance to stop her." Meanwhile, Elena Carter returned to her workshop beneath the bustling marketplace. The night's events weighed heavily on her mind, though she didn't show it. Her body ached from hours spent crouching in the shadows, and her hands were still, stained with grease from rigging the explosives. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that she had succeeded. The convoy's destruction would delay the Empire's plans, giving rebel groups precious time to regroup and strike back. Still, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that the Empire was closing in. Their latest attempt to trap her had been clumsy, but effective enough to force her into action. They were learning, adapting, and that made them dangerous. She knew she couldn't keep operating alone forever. Sooner or later, they would corner her. Unless... Her thoughts drifted to the rumors spreading through Nebula City. Whispers of rebellion echoed in the streets, carried by refugees and outcasts desperate for change. Some spoke of secret networks working to undermine the Empire from within. Others claimed that resistance cells were forming across the galaxy, united by a shared goal: freedom. Elena realized that she wasn't the only one fighting. There were others out there, people willing to risk everything to bring down the Empire. For the first time in years, Elena allowed herself to hope. Maybe she didn't have to fight alone after all. Laura and her team continued their investigation, focusing on uncovering Valkyrie's true identity. Dr. Miller pored over intelligence reports, cross-referencing data and piecing together fragments of information. Finally, she found something, a name buried deep in classified archives. Elena Carter, she announced during a briefing. She matches the profile. Former resident of Delta 7, a planet destroyed by the Empire 5 years ago. After the attack, she disappeared. No records of employment, no family connections, nothing. Until now. Laura studied the file carefully. It contained photos of a young woman with sharp features and piercing eyes, a stark contrast to the shadowy figure they'd been chasing. Delta 7, she murmured. That explains a lot. Ryan frowned. You think vengeance is her motive? It's part of it, Laura said. But there's more. Look at her targets. They're not just personal. She's targeting the Empire's infrastructure, weakening its grip on the galaxy. This isn't just about revenge, it's about justice. Jake Monroe crossed his arms. Justice or not, she's still a threat. And threats need to be neutralized. Laura hesitated. For the first time, doubt crept into her mind. Was Elena Carter truly a monster, as the Empire claimed? Or was she something else entirely? A symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope for those oppressed by tyranny. Determined to get answers, Laura decided to confront Elena directly. Using intercepted communications and surveillance footage, her team identified a likely location for Elena's hideout, an old cathedral-turned-refugee shelter near the heart of Nebula City. The building was abandoned, except for a small group of civilians seeking refuge, making it the perfect cover for someone trying to stay hidden. Under the cover of darkness, Laura led her team to the site. Armed soldiers surrounded the building while drones scanned the area for signs of movement. Inside, Elena watched silently from the shadows, her rifle ready. She had anticipated this moment, knowing the Empire wouldn't stop until they caught her. But she refused to go down without a fight. As the soldiers breached the entrance, Elena fired a single shot, disabling a drone hovering outside. Chaos erupted as alarms blared and troops scrambled for cover. Laura stepped forward, her weapon raised. "Valkyrie," she shouted, "show yourself. You're outnumbered and outgunned." For a moment, there was silence. Then Elena emerged from the shadows, her hands empty but her gaze unwavering. "You wanted to see me," she said calmly. "Here I am." Laura studied her carefully, searching for any sign of fear or hesitation. But Elena stood tall, her expression resolute. "Why are you doing this?" Laura asked. "All these attacks, all these deaths. You could have gone after the Emperor himself. Why focus on officers and supply lines?" Elena smiled faintly. "Because the Empire is a machine," she said. "Cut off its limbs and it falls apart. Destroy its leaders and chaos spreads. That's how you win, not by taking one life, but by dismantling the system itself." Laura hesitated. Something about Elena's words struck a chord deep within her. She had joined the Empire to protect order, to maintain stability. But standing here now, facing the woman responsible for so much destruction, she couldn't help but wonder, was the Empire really worth protecting? Before she could respond, Ryan intervened, his voice filled with frustration. "This isn't about ideals," he snapped. "It's about survival. You're killing people, plain and simple." "And what about the people the Empire kills?" Elena countered. "The families torn apart, the planets burned to ash, all in the name of order. Tell me, Ryan, is that justice?" Ryan opened his mouth to argue but stopped short, unsure of what to say. Even Jake and Lisa exchanged uneasy glances, their loyalty to the Empire wavering under Elena's piercing gaze. Laura stepped forward again, lowering her weapon slightly. "If you surrender now, I'll make sure you're treated fairly," she offered. "No executions, no torture, just a trial." Elena shook her head. "Trials are for criminals," she said. "I'm not a criminal. I'm a fighter, and I won't stop until the Empire falls." With that, she turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving Laura and her team stunned. Despite their superior numbers and firepower, they had failed once again to capture her. Back aboard Eclipse Prime, Laura reviewed the mission's outcome with mixed emotions. They had come closer than ever to catching Valkyrie, yet she had slipped away once more. Worse still, her words lingered in Laura's mind, challenging everything she believed in. Was the Empire truly the force for good she had always imagined? Or was it something darker, something corrupt? Ryan broke the silence. What now, Captain? Do we keep chasing her? Laura sighed, running a hand through her hair. For now, yes. But maybe it's time we started asking ourselves why we're doing this. Is it really about protecting the galaxy? Or is it about protecting power? Her team exchanged uncertain looks, unsure of how to respond. For the first time in years, Laura felt doubt creeping into her heart, a crack in the foundation of her beliefs. And somewhere out there, Elena Carter smiled, knowing that even the strongest empires could crumble when faced with the truth. The aftermath of the confrontation in the cathedral left Laura Hayes with more questions than answers. Her team returned to Eclipse Prime, their mission unfulfilled, and their confidence shaken. Elena Carter had escaped yet again, leaving behind only her words, and those words lingered like an unshakable shadow. Laura couldn't stop thinking about what Elena had said. I'm not a criminal. I'm a fighter. It wasn't just defiance in her voice. It was conviction. Laura had spent years serving the Empire, believing she was protecting order and justice. But now, for the first time, she wondered if she had been wrong. In the days that followed, Laura found herself questioning everything. She reviewed Elena's targets again, studying the patterns Dr. Karen Miller had uncovered. Each attack had weakened the Empire's grip on the galaxy, cutting off supply lines, disrupting propaganda campaigns, and eliminating corrupt leaders. These weren't random acts of violence. They were calculated moves designed to dismantle oppression. Could Elena really be the villain the Empire claimed she was? Or was she something else entirely? A symbol of hope for those crushed under the Empire's boot. Ryan Cole noticed the change in Laura almost immediately. Gone was the steely determination that had driven her before. In its place was hesitation, doubt, and a quiet frustration. You okay, Captain? He asked one evening. As they reviewed surveillance footage in the briefing room, Laura didn't look up from the screen. Do you ever wonder why we do this? She asked softly. Why we fight so hard to protect the Empire? Ryan frowned, caught off guard by the question. Because it's our duty, isn't it? To keep things stable, to stop chaos. And what happens when stability means oppression? Laura countered. When order is just another word for control? Ryan opened his mouth to respond but stopped short, unsure of what to say. He glanced at Jake Monroe and Lisa Carter, who were seated nearby, but they avoided his gaze. The unease spreading through the team was palpable. For years they had followed orders without question, trusting that the Empire knew best. But now, cracks were forming in that trust. Meanwhile, Elena Carter moved cautiously through Nebula City, her mind racing. The encounter with Laura Hayes had been closer than she cared to admit. For a moment she had considered surrendering, not because she feared capture, but because she saw something in Laura's eyes. Doubt. Elena recognized it because she had once felt it herself, back when she still believed the Empire could be reasoned with. That belief had died along with her family and her homeworld, replaced by a burning need for justice. But seeing Laura hesitate gave Elena hope. Maybe not everyone in the Empire was beyond redemption. Still, Elena couldn't afford to let her guard down. She knew the Empire wouldn't stop hunting her, and the stakes were higher than ever. With each successful attack, she inspired others to rise up, to form resistance cells, sabotage Imperial operations, and spread messages of rebellion. The Empire called them terrorists, but Elena saw them as freedom fighters. They were the future of the galaxy, and she was determined to protect them. To do that, she needed allies. Elena reached out to contacts she had cultivated over the years. Former soldiers disillusioned with the Empire, smugglers willing to trade supplies for credits, and hackers skilled at infiltrating Imperial networks. Slowly, but surely, she began building a network of supporters, united by a shared goal: to bring down the Empire. One of her most valuable allies was a young mechanic named Sam Rivera, who ran a repair shop in the city's industrial district. Sam had lost his brother to the Empire's forced labor camps and harbored a deep hatred for the regime. When Elena approached him, offering resources and intelligence, he agreed to help without hesitation. Together, they devised a plan to strike at the Empire's heart, a massive data center located on Eclipse Prime itself. Laura's doubts continued to grow as she delved deeper into Elena's past. She discovered fragments of information that painted a picture far different from the Empire's narrative. Records showed that Delta 7, Elena's homeworld, had been targeted not because of rebel activity, but because of its rich mineral deposits. The Empire had accused its people of harboring insurgents to justify the bombardment, knowing full well that the planet posed no real threat. Thousands of innocent lives had been wiped out in an instant, all for profit. The revelation hit Laura hard. She had always believed the Empire fought for justice, for peace. But this was something else entirely. It was greed, masked as righteousness. And if the Empire was capable of such atrocities, how many other lies had she blindly accepted? Dr. Karen Miller noticed the change in Laura and decided to push further. "There's more," she said during a private meeting. "I've been analyzing Valkyrie's targets. Some of them aren't just corrupt officials or military leaders. A few are scientists, engineers, and activists working to undermine the Empire from within. Valkyrie isn't just dismantling the Empire, she's protecting those who can rebuild it." Laura stared at the data, her mind reeling. "So she's not just fighting against the Empire," she murmured. "She's fighting for something better." "Exactly," Karen replied. "Which raises the question, whose side are we really on?" The tension aboard Eclipse Prime reached a breaking point when General Harold Grayson summoned Laura to another High Council meeting. The room buzzed with anger and frustration as Grayson slammed his fist on the table. "Enough," he barked. "We've given you every resource, every tool, and still Valkyrie eludes us. What more do you need?" Laura stood tall, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. "Perhaps the problem isn't resources," she said. "Perhaps it's perspective. We've been treating Valkyrie as a criminal, but maybe she's something else entirely. A catalyst for change." Grayson's face turned red with fury. "Change? Do you hear yourself? The Empire is the foundation of order in this galaxy. Without it, there would be nothing but chaos. And what kind of order is built on oppression and lies?" Laura shot back, surprising even herself with her boldness. "If we want to survive, we need to adapt, to listen, to understand why people are rising up." The room fell silent as the council members exchanged uneasy glances. Grayson stared at Laura, his expression unreadable. Finally he spoke, his voice cold and sharp. "Your loyalty is admirable, Captain, but misplaced. If you cannot fulfill your duty, then perhaps someone else will." With that, Laura was dismissed. As she walked out of the room, she felt a strange sense of relief. For years, she had carried the weight of blind obedience. Now, for the first time, she felt free. That night, Laura made a decision. She gathered her team in the briefing room and laid out her plan. "We're done chasing shadows," she said firmly. "It's time we chose a side, not the Empire's side, but the right side. Valkyrie has shown us the truth. The Empire isn't what we thought it was. If we stand by and do nothing, we become part of the problem." Ryan looked at her, his usual bravado replaced by uncertainty. "What are you saying, Captain? Are we betraying the Empire?" "I'm saying we have a chance to make a difference," Laura replied. "To fight for something real. Who's with me?" One by one, her team nodded. Even Jake and Lisa, who had always followed orders without question, agreed to join her. Together, they began preparing for their next move, sabotaging the Empire's data center on Eclipse Prime. It was a risky plan, but it was also their best chance to weaken the Empire's control and give hope to those fighting for freedom. Unbeknownst to them, Elena Carter was already planning the same operation. Their paths were about to cross again, not as enemies but as allies. Somewhere in the stars a new dawn was rising, and this time the Empire wouldn't see it coming. The plan was set. Elena Carter and her growing network of allies worked tirelessly to prepare for the assault on the Empire's data center aboard Eclipse Prime. The facility housed critical information, classified documents, surveillance records, and operational plans that kept the Empire's vast machinery running smoothly. Destroying it would deal a crippling blow to the regime, exposing its secrets and crippling its ability to coordinate attacks across the galaxy. Sam Rivera played a key role in the operation. Using his skills as a mechanic, he modified several drones to infiltrate the station's defenses. These drones were equipped with EMP charges capable of disabling security systems temporarily, creating a narrow window for Elena and her team to strike. Meanwhile, hackers within her network worked to breach the station's firewalls, planting false data and redirecting Imperial forces away from the target. As the day of the attack approached, Elena felt a mix of excitement and unease. This wasn't just another mission. It was the culmination of years of sacrifice and struggle. If they succeeded, they could ignite a rebellion strong enough to topple the Empire. But failure meant capture, or worse. She pushed those thoughts aside, focusing instead on the task ahead. Unbeknownst to Elena, Laura Hayes and her team were also planning to strike at the data center. After deciding to turn against the Empire, Laura had used her position to gather intelligence and resources. Her team spent hours studying blueprints of the station, identifying weak points in its defenses and mapping out escape routes. They knew the risks involved, but none of them hesitated. For the first time in years, they felt like they were fighting for something meaningful. Ryan Cole, once cocky and reckless, now carried a quiet determination. "This is it," he said during their final briefing. "No turning back after this." Laura nodded. "If we succeed, we'll give people a chance to rise up, to fight back. That's worth any risk." Jake Monroe adjusted his gear, his usual sarcasm replaced by solemn resolve. "Let's just hope Valkyrie doesn't get in our way." The night of the operation arrived, and both teams moved into position. Elena led her group through the asteroid field surrounding Eclipse Prime, using cloaking devices to evade detection. Once close enough, she deployed Sam's modified drones, which quickly infiltrated the station's outer defenses. Alarms blared as the EMP charges detonated, plunging sections of the station into darkness. Inside Eclipse Prime, chaos erupted. Imperial guards scrambled to restore power, while technicians frantically worked to contain the breach. Amid the confusion, Elena slipped through ventilation shafts, her rifle slung over her shoulder. Her goal was clear: reach the data core and upload a virus that would erase the Empire's files permanently. At the same time, Laura and her team entered the station through a maintenance hatch. Moving stealthily, they disabled patrols and planted decoys to mislead Imperial forces. Their path intersected with Elena's near the central hub, where the data core was located. Neither side realized the other was present until they rounded a corner and came face to face. For a moment there was silence. Elena recognized Laura immediately, her expression unreadable. Laura, too, froze, unsure of what to do next. Then Ryan stepped forward, his weapon raised. "Drop your weapon," he demanded. Elena didn't move. Instead, she glanced at Laura. "You're here to stop me?" "No," Laura replied, lowering her own weapon. "We're here to help." Confusion rippled through Elena's team, but she trusted her instincts. Something in Laura's tone rang true. "Why should I believe you?" Elena asked. "Because I've seen the truth," Laura said simply. "About the Empire, about you. We want the same thing." After a tense pause, Elena nodded. "Fine. But if you betray us, I won't hesitate to take you down." Laura met her gaze. "Understood." With their combined forces, the two groups pressed forward. Elena provided detailed knowledge of the station's layout, while Laura's team offered tactical expertise honed from years of service. Together, they navigated the labyrinthine corridors, taking out guards and disabling traps along the way. When they finally reached the data core, Elena handed Laura a small device containing the virus. "You plant it," she said. "I'll cover you." Laura hesitated but accepted the task. As she worked to upload the virus, Elena stood watch, her rifle trained on the entrance. Minutes stretched into eternity as alarms continued to wail and footsteps echoed in the distance. Finally, Laura gave a thumbs up. It's done. Before they could celebrate, however, Imperial reinforcements arrived, flooding the chamber with soldiers. Elena fired a series of precise shots, cutting down several guards before retreating behind cover. "We need to go now," she shouted. Laura nodded, and the group began their escape. Using explosives planted earlier by Jake and Lisa, they created diversions to slow their pursuers. The retreat was chaotic, with bullets whizzing past and alarms blaring, but they managed to reach an extraction point near the station's docking bay. As they boarded separate ships, Elena turned to Laura one last time. "What happens now?" she asked. Laura smiled faintly. "We keep fighting, together." Elena nodded, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Good luck, Captain." "You too, Valkyrie." Back aboard Eclipse Prime, General Grayson raged as news of the attack spread. The data core had been wiped clean, leaving the Empire scrambling to recover lost information. Worse still, fragments of evidence implicating high-ranking officials in atrocities had leaked to the public, sparking outrage across the galaxy. Protests erupted on dozens of worlds, demanding justice and reform. Laura and her team disappeared into the shadows, joining underground networks dedicated to resisting the Empire. Inspired by Elena's courage, Ryan became a vocal advocate for change, using his skills to train others in guerrilla tactics. Even Jake and Lisa found new purpose, smuggling supplies to rebel cells and sabotaging Imperial operations wherever they could. As for Elena, she continued her campaign, striking fear into the hearts of tyrants while inspiring others to rise up. Though the Empire still stood, cracks began to form in its foundation. And somewhere among the stars, Elena smiled, knowing that even the mightiest empires could crumble when faced with the power of one determined soul. The galaxy was changing, and this time, the rebels held the reins.